Click here to subscribe our channel. Do not forget to press the bell icon to get regular updates of free videos.
Okay, this class is mainly for general studies, economic purpose. Now, in this class of general studies economics, mainly this class is being recorded for prelims oriented point of view. That means we will be discussing those topics which are relevant for economics point of view. That is only for this prelims 2019 point of view. Now, specifically we will be focusing on those areas which are more and more important for prelims point of view and not necessarily from the point of view of the mains purpose. So, if you divide the economy section into broadly two parts, like the static part of it, because some questions are from the static part as well, and some questions from the dynamic part as well. Now, the static part basically includes areas like national income accounting, the concept of cost, like for example last year there was a question of opportunity cost. So, concept related to that, they are not going to ask what do you mean by opportunity cost, they are giving you certain examples. If you know that concept exactly, then only you will be able to answer it. So, if you divide it into two parts, we can say there are some areas of static and there are some areas of the dynamic or current related point of view. Now, to structure it, we can say general studies economics, weightage for this question is around we can say 15 to 20 questions, weightage for economics. Sometimes on a lower side or sometimes it will be on a higher side. As in the last year there was around I think 17 to 18 questions. Now those 17 to not only the number of questions was more, but the level of difficulty was also on a higher side, we can say, from the last year point of view of question. Now the topics that will be included, if you divide it into the areas. Now, areas of interest, first of all, it can be divided into two parts. One is the static part and the other is dynamic or current oriented. It is a dynamic or current oriented part. This dynamic part can be further divided, and I will write it in terms of the priority, like concept related to public finance. Concept related to public finance. Now, what will be static in that public finance and what is dynamic in that public finance? The static part will be the concept of taxation. Like if I say what is the difference between progressive taxation and regressive taxation? What is the difference between direct tax and indirect tax? Then you can consider it to be a part of static. But if there are some questions like GST, why exports are zero rated in the GST, questions like that, now those can be considered as a dynamic part of it. So there will always be two parts of any topic. One will be the static part as well as, and the other will be the dynamic part. So one area of interest will be public finance, which mainly deals with government taxation and government expenditure. So topics like GST, Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act, those topics will be covered in that public finance. Public finance will also include basically your fiscal policy. The alternate one will be monetary policy. That monetary policy will deal mainly with the money supply and the instrument related to that monetary policy, like repo rate, what is reverse repo rate, CRR, SLR. Again, in those topics, we can say there are some static part and the dynamic part. The static part will be the meaning of it, and the dynamic we can say what is the current rate of repo rate, or what is reverse repo rate, current rate, what is CRR, SLR, and what is their actual values. Now those will be considered as the dynamic part. So the instruments, all instruments you must know exactly how it works, how monetary policy works through its various instruments. So those instruments will be explained in this monetary policy section. So the fiscal policy will be covered in this public finance, and monetary policy will be covered in this second topic. After covering these two, we will do the sectoral description. Sectoral description in the sense, one important sector will be industry. So questions related to that. Industry will also, obviously it will be including, just for example, say MSME sector. So how do you define that? Micro unit, small unit, medium unit? What was the old definition? How that definition has changed? How it was earlier in terms of investment in plant and machinery, and now that definition has changed from investment in plant and machinery to the turnover. Which unit will be, you call it micro unit, which one is medium unit, which one is small unit? Plus there will be some static part also in this, like disinvestment or public sector undertaking, share of industry in GDP, share of industry in employment, share of industry in exports. Similarly, the topics will be in the agriculture. So the same topic will be covered. Second or next sector will be the agriculture and the service sector. So we can say these three are the sectoral composition. So one important part will be the policies, other will be the sectoral by description. Then it also include the external sector, like export, import policy, new foreign trade policy, share of agriculture in export, share of industry in export, overall share of India's export in the world GDP or world export. So certain topics related to that external sector. After finishing that external sector, we will be clubbing in one class the topic like inflation, unemployment and poverty. So that will be covered, we can say, in one class: inflation, unemployment and poverty. We can say all problems clubbed in one particular class. And after that, all government policies and act, all government policies and the act. Now to cover these topics, obviously we are assigning 7 days. It is basically a 1 week program. So in a 1 week program of around 2.5 hour to 3 hour classes, we are supposed to cover all these topics, including the static one as well as the dynamic part. And the source that will be covered for these topics, the sources will be mainly the union budget of interim budget obviously of 1920. Then since there is no economic survey this year, so we will be, in that absence, will be referring to the economic survey of 1780, the relevant one. So one part will be the union budget of 1819 and rather 1920, and for economic survey of 1718. Apart from that, the vision document of Niti Aayog and some chapters from India yearbook and few questions from the previous year paper. So these are the various topics that we will be covering. Now to explain these topics, you have to focus on which type of question is being generally asked. Now just for example, since the first topic will be the public finance. Now public finance deals with the taxation part as well as the expenditure part. Now within that taxation, obviously you will be getting some questions from that public finance area because it is most popular area as far as question is concerned. Now if there will be certain informations given, all informations related to that GST, and then you have to answer question based upon those 4 different informations. Like GST is basically referred as a destination based principle. Now GST is imposed on the basis of destination principle. It means जहाँ destination होगा, that person will be paying that tax. So if a transaction originate at one place, obviously its destination will be the buyer. So it is basically tax imposed on the destination based principle rather than origin based principle. Like earlier, when firms produces goods, when firms manufacture goods, they have to pay excise duty. So it was based upon origin based. Where product is originated, you have to impose tax there. Now it is based upon the destination. Where product is destined to go, on them there will be a GST imposed. Now applying on that criteria, we say that exports are 0 rated. Reason? The destination of our export will be the foreign country, and on foreign country we do not have jurisdiction to impose tax. So in that way exports are being treated as 0 rated. So that is one important, we can say, concept, as well as one important current information as well, that exports are tend to be 0 rated. Then it obviously GST is always reducing the cascading effect. But what was exactly that cascading effect? Cascading effect was that it was a form of tax on tax. Just I will give one example, it will make many things clear. If person A is selling cotton worth 400 to person B converted it into cloth and sold it at 700 to person C converted it into shirt and sell it at 1000. Now what used to happen without or before VAT, that a tax of, say for example, 10% was imposed on first transaction, also imposed on second transaction 10% of this, and 10% of this final transaction. So tax of 40, 70 and 100. Now you can simply say that in order to produce cloth, this manufacturer has purchased cotton, and on that cotton 40 rupees tax was already paid. So ideally he should be paying tax only on the value addition. So if you calculate the value added part, then value added at first stage is 400, at second stage how much is the addition? 300, and at third stage again the addition of 300. So when VAT is imposed, then it will be 40, if again I say 10%, 30 here and 30 here. So in the case of VAT, this is the overall tax. Without VAT, this was the overall tax. So this was basically the meaning of cascading effect. It was tax upon tax. So GST is being introduced in the form of VAT. Means when you say GST rate of 5% or 12% or 18%, it is 18% of what? 18% of the value added. So GST is basically imposed in the form of VAT, and basically it is a invoice method. VAT has also a different form, but it is basically the invoice method. जितने का invoice issue करेंगे, on that there will be a certain percentage of tax. Now, in addition to that, obviously when you explain GST also has its different form. Like in certain countries, all GST is collected by the center and then center share it with the states. In some countries, all GST is collected by a state and then state share it with the center. But in India we have adopted a dual GST. Dual GST in the sense there is a central GST as well as there will be a state GST. So basically we have adopted a dual GST. Center's GST as well as state GST on a common base. So when you see any particular bill on which you pay GST, it is basically written as, say, if total is 12% of GST, 6% is CGST and 6% is the SGST. So dual GST, but obviously if a good is being transferred from one state to the other state, the originating state is different, destination state is different, then it is considered an interstate transaction. And for those interstate transactions, rather than CGST and SGST, IGST is charged, integrated GST or interstate GST. Now interstate transactions are charged IGST. Just for example, if any student is attending this class offline in Delhi, then on that fee he will be paying CGST and SGST. But if a student is attending this class online in Chennai, so Delhi becomes one place of origin and Chennai becomes the destination. So two states are involved. In that case, he will be paying IGST. So those type of concept you should remember. Plus, if you apply this concept for imposition on imports, so if a commodity is being imported, then which type of GST will be imposed? Central GST, state GST or IGST or all? So remember, when you consider import is being considered, in the case of import what we consider that entire country become one state and the other country become the other state. So it is basically interstate transaction. So in the case of interstate transaction you impose IGST. So on import there is IGST apart from that import duty as well. So we will be discussing that GST in detail. What are the objectives, what problems or challenges that economy is facing in terms of GST, what are the various salient features of that GST. I have given just few examples that which type of question may be asked from you, which could be related to the concept as well as it will be related to the current aspect as well. Now apart from these topics, the public finance will always also find some topics from union budget. So in this interim budget of 2019-20, we have to focus on various types of announcement. We have to basically focus on various types of announcement which has been done by the government. Now among them, most important one is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana. Now what they will ask in paper, they may be giving you certain informations, and obviously as you know, you are familiar with those. If 4 or 5 informations are given, then your options will start, whether 1 and 2 is correct, 2 or 3 is correct, all are correct, no one is correct. So what we have to do in the class, that we will be writing all the detailed information about those programs. Just to begin with, if it is PM Kisan Yojana, then what is the full form of that Kisan? It is Kisan, KI for Kisan Samman Nidhi. So it is basically Kisan Samman Nidhi. Abbreviation is basically Kisan. So in that Kisan Yojana, what were the salient features or major facts? Now when you explain or when you prepare, you have to just copy down the main facts related to this program or this Yojana or scheme. Now the major facts will be that most important will be there is a direct income support, and that will be that income support of 6,000, that income support of 6,000 to farmers having cultivable land of 2 acre, up to 2 acre or 2 hectare. That income support of 6,000 to the farmers having cultivable land of up to 2 hectare, and that 6,000 will be given in the 3 installment of 2,000 each, and 1 installment will be given before 31st of March 2019. For that purpose, there is an outlay, and that outlay is 20,000 for the financial year 2018-19, because first installment you have to pay before 31st March, and 75,000 crore for the financial year 2019-20. So one fact is this. Other fact will be, you have to remember is this. The third fact is that it is going to help around 12 crore small and marginal farmers, 12 crore small and marginal farmers, and this program is effective from 1st of December 2018. 1st of December 2018. So there are certain important facts related to that PM Kisan Yojana. Remember, if you are able to recall only one fact, that 6,000 will be given, it is not good enough. You have to know many facts, so that if all informations are given, and some of them may be given correctly, some of them may be given incorrectly, and then your option will start. So if you know all facts or try to cover at least majority of facts, then only you will be able to answer these type of questions. So in the class what we will do, that we will cover the entire budget, all the programs, all the facts related to that, like Department of Fisheries Department of Fishery will be created, and that Department of Fishery is aimed to have a growth rate of 7%. So Department of Fishery is a separate department that has to be created, which aims to have a 7% growth for 1.45 crore people. Remember, when I say these facts are more relevant in the prelims examination point of view, but maybe some facts you can skip for the mains point of view. But if you are able to substantiate any argument by using the fact given in the budget, it will be helpful in the mains as well. So many programs, just I have given you one example that in which way we will be proceeding this class. So if any program or any fact, we will be writing all those relevant informations, and focusing on the conceptual part as well as on the analytical part. Conceptual part, analytical part, and the factual one. So fact will be one part and the description will be the other part. And the objective is to, at least if there are say 15 to 20 questions, so that you will be able to answer all or at least 80 to 90% of those questions accurately. So the focus will be on the static as well as on the dynamic part. I will take care of that purpose, that if a student is not from economics background, or obviously that is a common paper, so some basic informations like what is exactly GDP, or what is imposition of or incidence of taxation, what is progressive tax, what is a regressive tax, what is proportional tax, how direct tax is different from indirect tax, what is personal income, what is personal disposable income, what is private income, how it is different from the public sector income, what do you mean by disinvestment, what is devaluation, what is appreciation of currency, what is depreciation of currency, why currency appreciates or depreciates, what is purchasing power parity approach or interest parity approach, poverty gap index or income gap index. Those type of technical things will also be explained in the class, and the factual information will also be given. So in that 7 days program, we will try to cover all those topics which I have listed here. That is public finance, monetary policy, industry, agriculture, service, external sector, inflation, unemployment, poverty, and all issues. And among the static part, national income accounting, there will be some concept of cost and so on. Those topics will also be included. So I hope this 1 week program will be helpful to you. Thank you.